This is a story about how my life turned upside down. Okay, it's not perfect, but I've cleaned my desk and I've moved all the crap off the floor. That's the main thing. So, let's get into the video. So what's happening, you beautiful people? Welcome back to the channel. It came to my realization the other day that I've stopped making as many YouTube videos as I was. Many reasons for this was that I focused more on my eBay. So last month was my best ever month because I dedicated so much time and effort to it. I've got a few issues with going into next month, but we'll leave that for another video. So today's video was mainly just telling you about myself. I've noticed, well, so my name's Chris, I'm 37 years old, I'm married with 2 children, and I'm a full-time eBay reseller. So this might not be for everybody. I'm trying my best to try and do different things. I've been inspired. Welcome to my world. My alarms, I have alarms for everything. This alarm says, write a to-do list, fatty. So, my mind doesn't, yeah. Anyway, I have alarms for everything. So, what was I saying? So yeah, just a quick little sort of run through the early years. When I was at school, I met my beautiful wife there. We're still together now. We've been together for 23 years now, I think it is. We've been married for 12 of those. We have 2 children. We were very young when we had kids. I think she was 19 and I was 18 when we had our first, and then a couple of years later we had our second. So through the early years, I basically went to college, went to do mechanics, dropped out of that. I went all the way through to the second year. All I had to do was get an apprenticeship, and I was set. And I bottled it, left, and then didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went and did some valeting jobs. I tried making my own valeting company. So I was still trying to be self-employed at some parts of my life earlier on. And then I sort of give it all up because I was lazy. That was it. That's the end of the story for that one. I was lazy. And then I went and worked at a BP, so basically just a garage, like a petrol station. I worked there for 7 years, and genuinely for those 7 years, I hated my life. Genuinely hated it. I was, yeah, in a bad place. And then I left that job and went to do valeting for another job that looked after vulnerable adults. And I really enjoyed that job, but I had an accident in one of the vans, and I was laid off. Whatever there. But after that, I wasn't working for about 4 or 5 years, and I was at a really low point. I was depressed, I had anxiety. A lot of people that know me personally in real life don't know any of this. I don't really go about it too much. A few core people know the ins and outs and the in-depths of how I was feeling, you know, but I tried not to say too much about it. You know, we're men, so we just get on with it, right? And that's what I did for a little bit. So I ended up working as a pizza delivery guy for Pizza Hut. I was 30, I want to say 31, and I was literally working as a pizza delivery guy, and I've just thought to myself, what am I doing with my life here? And even then, as a 30-year-old pizza, like, there's nothing wrong with delivering pizzas. If you're in that situation, that's fine. But for me, I was just thinking to myself, like, I've gotten to this stage in life, and I'm just a pizza delivery guy. I was working part-time, like, as a pizza delivery guy, like, you know what I mean? For me, it just wasn't enough. So anyway, my car blew up. The turbo went poof. And I spent 2 weeks out of work, where I you know, had to go to job seekers and that. Wasn't sure how long I was going to be out of work for, and job seekers for me is something that I felt slightly embarrassed about, and even do to this day. It's not something that I feel comfortable with doing. And then I went and got a job for 3 years doing deliveries, and then after those 3 years I moved into another job doing deliveries, and then this is where it all changed. So sorry that took so long, but that's very quick rundown. So where it all changed. So I was working for a company called Planet Donut based in Shrewsbury, and I was a delivery driver. I managed to get in to the company via knowing another guy who worked for my previous job. He'd left to gone there, and then I followed suit a couple of months later. And whilst I was at that job, I was offered a managerial position of basically running the events, and I was a manager initially with this other guy. We were events manager and delivery driver manager, so we would deal with all the deliveries, we would deal with all the drivers, and I was a manager there. Wasn't earning crazy money, but it was enough to pay the bills, etc. And whilst I was doing that job, I'd found a passion for photography, and I picked up a camera off Facebook Marketplace for £150. I messaged her, she had it listed for £250, and I messaged her and said, look, I've got £150, you know, the guy that you always hate when you're trying to sell something on Facebook. I was like, I've got £150, I can come and collect it in 20 minutes. And the woman was like, no worries, come and get it now, I want it gone. So I went and collected this camera for £150. Now, photography was something that I was very passionate about, and still am to a little degree, but I don't tend to get out as much. I need to go and buy a new camera, etc. But I was very passionate about photography, and it helped with my mental state. I would go out for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time on my own and just take pictures, and that was kind of where I felt happy. So I was doing this managerial job, and I was doing my photography on the side to just sort of mediated also. Doing a job I didn't really enjoy that much, but you know, the photography kept me going, sort of thing. So what happened then is I came across a video by a guy called Harry Tornado. Now most of you guys in the reselling community will know who he is. He's an American guy, he lives in South Carolina, and him and his wife go around garage sales, Goodwills, etc., buying loads of stuff and then selling it for a profit on eBay. Now, obviously I'm not in America, so I searched reselling in England or the UK, and the first name that came up was Chaddy Pete. So I watched one Chaddy Pete video, that turned into 2, into 3, into 4, and I watched everything that he basically made for the first 2 months of what I was doing. So on the 1st of January 2022, I decided to make a big leap of faith after watching all these Chaddy Pete videos about how you could buy stuff online, and it was mainly clothes at the time that Pete was doing. So I was like big into the clothes. I'd never been a fashion guy or anything like that, but when I first started my reselling section, I went straight into clothes because obviously I was influenced by Pete. So I made a big leap of faith and I sold my camera. So I paid £150 on Facebook for this camera, and I sold it on eBay for £350 on auction, because I didn't know what I was doing. Still don't most of the time, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I sold it on auction for £350. Now I bundled it all up, I boxed it, I was extra careful, made it was amazing. And that was my first taste of what I would consider a quote unquote scammer. So I sold this camera for £350, and I made sure it was so well packaged. And the guy messaged me once it had been delivered, and now obviously at this point this is the first time I'd ever sold on eBay, so they held your funds for like 17 years before you actually got them. The buyer would have to say it was good, and then after it said it was good, it would take 2 weeks for the payment to come through. He messaged me and said, look, the camera tripod is broken. And I was like, well, I know it wasn't broken when I packaged it, and I packaged it very well, and maybe it did get broken. I'm just gonna say I didn't. So the broken tripod had some cracks in it, etc. Anyway, he sent me some pictures. I just said, look, you know, what do you want to do here? And he said, just give me a partial refund, as they all do. Maybe he wasn't a scammer, maybe I just didn't do it correctly, but I'm adamant that I did. So I give him a partial refund. I think it ended up being like £35, and he left me a good feedback. And then basically I took that 300 and after the refund and stuff, like £300 after fees, etc. I took that £300 and I went from that to selling this year, at this date right now, just shy of £50,000 worth of sales this year alone. Now that isn't the craziest of numbers in the grand scheme of things compared to a lot of other people, but for me, somebody who went from job to job, hating job from job, and doing that, and never really having the ability or the tenacity, and so someone for me, like, they didn't have the tenacity and consistency to be able to make it doing anything. I somehow fallen in love with eBay and reselling as in a whole. So basically I went from having zero, sold a camera, made £350, and then for the next 6 months focused on clothing. Now I still have some of those. This is just shy of 2 years later, and I still have some of those items on my store now. So, you know, for the first 6 to 12 months, absolute mess. But I made it work, I made money. I bought a shed just before Christmas, after 12 months. The shed was about £1,000, I believe. I'd made a solid amount of money, but nothing crazy. But obviously the latter part of last year, I was making better money than I was in the first 6 months. And then what happened is I decided I was going to get an accountant. My accountant, then I went with QuickBooks. and I spoke to the accountant, and he said to me, look, you haven't tracked all of the information you needed to track. I'd withdrawn like $5,000 in cash, which for us, we know, car boots, etc., Facebook market pickups, stuff like that. And yeah, I basically didn't do any of the receipts or any information like that. So my tax bill for what is the end of this year now is a lot higher than it should be, because I didn't track any of the information. So let's just start from here. The do's and don'ts, and what you should and what you shouldn't have done, and what I wish I'd have known. Number one, as soon as you start, open a separate bank account so that all of your funds are in a different account, so you don't get mixed up with personal. That's step one. Step two is I would have started off with a lot lower value items on eBay to build up some feedback. Once you get past the 100 to 150, I believe that it's easier to avoid people that are going to do non-payment, so they'll make an offer and then you'll accept it and then they won't pay. Scammers in general, people that want to switch items for old items, and people that want partial refunds on pretty much anything and everything. So I think once you get past the 100 to 150 feedback mark, then you know, you get less of it. I still get non-payments quite a lot now, and I still get people trying to pull partial refunds on me, and I'm a lot more adverse to it now. I've had a few over the last 6 months where people have tried to show bits of damage that didn't really show any damage, and then they want a partial refund, and I've just said absolutely, I don't do partial refunds, send the item back. And then when you offer to have the item returned and then do a full refund, they don't want it, because what they're actually trying to do is just trying to keep the item and get some money back off it. So I think you'll avoid a lot more of those. Now, the biggest takeaway I've got from reselling in the first 6 to 12 months is space. I don't have any. I have a 12 by 8 foot shed, which is my listed stock in boxes. I'll show you, I mean, some of you guys might have seen that, but I will show you at the end of the video. My front room is overrun. If you were to sit on my very expensive couch in my very nice front room, you can't see anything because there's boxes everywhere. So that's another thing. And my dining room, which you'll have seen at the start of the video, has been converted into a quote-unquote office, picture area, storage, stroke packing, stroke everything. So I'm looking to pick up a new shed. I'm probably going to buy a bigger one, maybe even like a cabinet type one. So that is something I'm definitely looking into, because space has become a massive issue for me. Moving forward into the next 12 months, well, next 10 or so months, because we're not quite there at the end of the year yet. So I'm going to tell you what I did do that I wish I hadn't. When the car boots came back on again, I focused solely on car boots. So I was going to 3 car boots a week, going crazy. 3 days a week. So I was going Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, 4 days a week. Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I was going to them sometimes 2 on a Saturday, sometimes 2 on a Sunday. But what I stopped doing at the start of the car boot season, up until around 2 or 3 weeks ago, is I stopped going to charity shops. Now, for me, when I'm collecting stock, sourcing stock, charity shops is where I pick up my clothes, and everything else is from car boots. So I sell anything, I sell everything. So clothes for me, I always pick up from charity shops. I will try and get some from car boots as well, but my main source of clothing is from charity shops. And then I pick up DVD players, games, board games, all that sort of type of stuff. That all comes from car boots. So what's happened in the last, say, 8 months, whilst the car boot season's been on, is I have literally just disowned charity shops to a degree. I still go to my local one and stuff like that, but I wasn't going out sourcing at charity shops for a full day like I used to. And what's happened is my level of clothing's gone down, my level of everything else has gone up, but I'm running into, we're just headed into Q4 now, we're about a week in, and I have gone from listing 10 a day down to 5, because my stock limit is a lot lower than it should be. I know resellers that have got way more stock than they need, and they're only listing 5 a day. I was listing 10 a day and I don't have enough stock. So now I'm having to revert back to 5 a day. Still good items, still good quality, still good pricing. But obviously, the less you list, the less on your store, the less likely you are to sell items. My store at the moment has gone from 650 down to 580. I'm clearing out a lot of the old stock. But what this has meant is that I'm still selling a lot of the old stock, and I'm not adding enough good quality stock. I'm adding good quality at 5, but not enough of it. I need 10. The reason that I haven't got the stock now is because I stopped going to charity shops when car boots opened. So next year, and in fact recently, I've been going to car boots 3 days, 4 days a week, and then I've been going to charity shops every day of the week bar Sunday, obviously because less of them are open. So going forward, one thing that if you can take away from this video is if you source from charity shops and car boots, continue doing that all the way through the year. Do not be relentless. When I first started and I was working 50, 60 hours a week with the delivery manager job, I was still doing 30 hours a week minimum on eBay. And I was just grinding, I was getting no sleep, and I was grinding, I was going out, I was doing charity shops, I was relentless. And when I went full time in July of this year, that relentlessness died down a little bit. I got more casual, I had all day to list 10 items, and I wasn't sourcing as much because I felt like I had loads of stock. So I was spending 12 hours a day doing not a lot, just getting my 10 listings done and maybe a couple more for a schedule if I could be bothered. And what's happened now is I'm running on low stock, and now I'm having to go back to being relentless. So as of this week actually, my alarm is set for 4:30 in the morning. I am then getting all of the drafts and stuff ready for the next day, so maybe 10 or 15 if I can. Get that all done by 8 o'clock. I've got to drop my daughter off to college, and then from there I'm going to charity shops all day until around 4 p.m, and then I'm coming home and then prepping ready for the next day. Now when car boots are on, that's slightly different. Obviously on a Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, I will go to car boots, and then they're a little bit further away from me, so I have to do like a 40-mile round trip. So I will do charity shops around those areas as well, and then come back about 4 to 5 p.m, and then do for the next day I will then do the prep for that. Basically from July this year I went full time, and basically we're in, what is it now, it's the 9th of October as I'm recording this. Hopefully you'll see this tonight, and I'm in a good place. I've hit so my goal from last year to this year was to hit 50,000 in sales, and we're at 49 something. So unless we get some drastic turnaround, we're going to hit our 50,000 target for this year. Now my next goal is to hopefully reward the person that has helped me the most in reselling and in my life in general, which is my wife. She currently works for the same company that I did as a delivery driver because I drafted her in to come and work part-time to cover some areas in the business that I needed covering. And she didn't want to do it, but I kind of asked her, and this is kind of like a sort of theme of our relationship, is I want something and I need something, and she's always willing to help. That's been a theme of our relationship in our life for the last 23 years. She really didn't want to join the company, and I quote unquote forced her essentially, which was a bad decision on my part, because happiness is what we're all striving for, and unfortunately at the moment she's not happy in a situation. She has to go to a job she doesn't really enjoy, and that I put her in, and then I left and did this full time. Now obviously this is a job, but I also enjoy it massively. So my next aim, and for the future, we're currently in October now, and Christmas is fast approaching, and my main objectives now, so my main objectives for next year are to do a couple of things. Last year for this year it was 50,000 in sales. We're going to hit that, that's no stress. But I always like to look at the next picture, and the next picture for me is very clear. I want two things to happen. I nearly went for three, I'm going for two. One is, I need a bigger shed, or a storage unit, or a cabin, or etc. I've looked at warehouses and stuff like that, but I don't want to build an extra monthly outgoing that is not needed. So I'm going to do my very best to negate my monthly outgoings by just doing a big spend and putting like 3, 4, 5, 6,000 pound down on getting a big shed unit like thing for the back garden, and then we're set. Everything's in one place. I can tidy up the house, get rid of all this stuff, and really sort of like streamline the business. So that's step one. Step one is to get this done. This is as soon as possible. Step two is to employ the wife full time. I mean, within reason. But in terms of hours, I need her by my side. She is the motivation. She is the help that is needed. even now when she works part-time, but she does about 20 to 25 hours a week, but she will constantly be drafting things for me. She'll be constantly listing things for me. She's constantly motivating me, helping me get to where I need to be, doing all these things. She's a very great woman. I love her very much. She's the driving force behind it. And you know, as a man, you need somebody who's going to be able to put you up there and say, look, I believe in you, you can do this. And you just need to appreciate the hell out of them, because there's not too many people in my life that I can fall upon. I believe there's a few family and bits and pieces there, and there's a few friends that I hold very dear, but I have a very small sort of community of people that I enjoy spending time with. My wife, I always say it to her, she laughs all the time, but I just tell her she's my favourite human being. She's my favourite person in the world, and she is, and she always will be. So yeah, that's she hasn't got a gun to the back of my head, by the way, just saying how it is. So yeah, she's my favourite human, and in recent years I've suffered majorly with like social anxiety. I don't like going into big groups of people, and I don't like doing all this sort of thing. But what I have found massively helpful is the reselling community. So I joined Instagram and made a specific reselling account. And I've only got like 400 followers or whatnot, but I've got a bunch of people on there that I talk to on a regular basis. You know who you are, I'm not going to shout you out or say anything. But yeah, there's a bunch of people on there that I really, really get on with, and there's people that I speak to every day. And recently, one of those guys who I will shout out is Karim. He did a reseller meetup, and I went down there. The first one actually was Ross, and he made one in Milton Keynes, and that was actually the first one I'd ever gone to. And I'd spoken to a couple of people and said, look, I'm super nervous. I'm not very like sociable in big groups. 1-to-1, 1-to-3, I'm okay with. Anything more than that, and I get a little bit clammy. I can't socially interact. I'm not very good at it. I haven't had huge experience in dealing with large groups. I'm much better in a smaller tight-knit group of 1 to 3 people. I went to the Milton Keynes event and everybody was super lovely, super fantastic, and really enjoyed it. So after that, a couple of those people I speak to again on a regular basis. I'm also involved in Karim's WhatsApp group, which is full of about 85 people now, and they are all genuinely nice people. They're all resellers. They'll always big up what you're doing. You know, they support, they appreciate, and it's great. They're a lovely community. And then Karim decided he was going to do this meetup in Essex, which again, me being me, super anxious, super like not, and there's a lot of people there that I respected. So a lot of the people that turned up were people that I'd watched on YouTube. I think so Pete and Lola were there, the Luxury Pickers, Beth and Austin, Clickwright Josh, and Harry, I resell stuff. I'd watched all of these people before I'd spoken to them, essentially. So like I said before, Lola and Pete, loved them. They were the reason I got into reselling, essentially. And then I found myself watching all of the other surrounding content from the YouTubers that are in that group. So when I went to this event, I put a picture here. It was really nice just to get involved and try and have a conversation with a few of the people. Now, I don't know what their perspective of me is, but from my perspective of them, incredible people, lovely people. They made an effort to try and talk to me, even though I'd not spoken to them before, and I wasn't really I wouldn't say I wasn't in the framework of the people that they know, and everybody was super kind, super nice, and I managed to get a few conversations in. Now again, me being me, super awkward, didn't really say too much. I was very quiet, and that's just the way I am when I'm in a social. When there was a couple of people, I could get slightly more involved, but obviously there is a large group. I think there ended up being like 20, 30 people there. So when everyone's there and it's a big group, I sort of clam up a little bit, like I said before. But yeah, so that was a quick story. No, what am I about? So yeah, again, I just want to say thank you to everybody that was at the meetup. They were super kind, super generous, super lovely. I really enjoyed my time there. So thanks to Karim for organising that. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself, and it pushes me out of my comfort zone. I'm really looking forward to the Resell Summit this year. Last year I missed it. I wasn't confident enough to go. Me and the wife were contemplating going. Again, like I said, she's always with me doing my thing. So this year, we've already booked a 2-day for the weekend. We've already booked 2 days at the hotel, and I'm getting 2 tickets, and we're both going. I really want her to come along with me, because I'm hoping by then we are somewhat close to being full-time, both of us just doing this and working hard at it. So yeah, again, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's watched the channel. If you've got it this far, then you're a legend, because let's be honest, I've rambled. And anybody who knows me knows I can waffle for days. So yeah, just want to say thank you to everybody who's watched the video, etc. I look forward to trying to produce some more content. I'm going to try and get a few more videos recorded today if I can. Maybe I'll get back to doing the what sold videos. Let me know in the comment section if you've watched the what sold videos, whether you like them or not. Some people do, some people don't. They're a little bit of a pain to edit, and they're a little bit of a pain to put together. They just take up a bit of time. So if you guys really do enjoy watching them, let me know and I will continue making those. I'm going to try and get back to some car boot videos. I just want to show you how easy it is to get into this game and really put yourself in the community. If you can put yourself into the community, there's so many people that'll help you. Like I said, I've gone from 0 to 50,000 in sales in 2 years. So it really shows that somebody even like me, who's quite introverted, quite quiet, not really out there, I've put myself in the community, I've learnt a lot, and I've just gone crazy on just trying to push the boundaries of what I'm capable of. Now, that might not be as good as what other people are capable of, but I'm doing the best I can. I can definitely do better in the future, but right now I feel like I'm doing the best I can, and that's all that we can do. So yeah, I'm hoping that you learned something, you enjoyed the video. I know it was a little bit of a different one. I'm just trying to do different content. I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. And hopefully, I know from watching other YouTubers that I like knowing about them and what their story is and where they're going from. And this is basically just like a long single talkative podcast, essentially, where I've just given you a brief breakdown of where I'm at, what I'm doing, the future plans, and what I want to do. So hopefully you've taken a little bit away from this, and just keep smashing it, keep listening, keep doing your thing, and just know that you can do it.